decide. I've been thinking because we embrace every social media platform there is, regardless. Right here at Software Defined Talk. So Matt, I'm gonna switch it. I'm gonna switch the view now
Yeah.
to. Hold on. Does it? Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I was about to say I'm gonna switch it to the TikTok view or the
What?
horizontal.
Oh,
It won't let
gotcha.
me do it now that I'm live. Now we're locked into this. So
The
okay.
tyranny of the 16:9.
Well, because maybe what I should ask people, I want them to reply in the chat, or they can later on. They can, I don't know if the chat will come up. They can tell us later what they want. Like I was thinking, like, well, should we try to get some of our oh, that kind of works. I was like, maybe we should we do some clips? Should we try to get into the TikTok, right? And we'd
Just
have to make the video horizontal, then we have to do some editing after the show, which I don't know if I can really do that, but I'm willing to try. So I don't know. So that'll be, let me before you go, I'll just say it's like, hey, if you have an opinion, should we record these videos vertically and embrace our TikTok fame that awaits us? Or should we just admit that, like, we're just another podcast of three guys talking that probably nobody on TikTok cares about? What are your thoughts?
if three people are on, I'm not sure the vertical still works. It might be too cramped.
Well, we've learned that, because we test everything in production here at Software Defined Talk. We've learned that before we go live, we have to decide. We have to commit. Like, you can't, you have to like restart the whole thing. So I don't want to restart it today. So this week we're going old school, which I guess is kind of pseudo vertical just because we have the chat there. So I don't know, but I would like to hear if people have an opinion. I'm curious if they think it's a good idea or not. All right.
It's probably fine.
It's probably fine, as always. As
always.
As we know with everything in Software Defined Talk, fine. It's fine. All right. Let's see. I'm putting it in the Twitch. I'm putting it in the Slack. Yep. I'm gonna send it to everyone because they're in the Slack, and then I'm gonna put it on the old Mastodon. Where are we at these days on Mastodon, man? I feel like we're both slowing down. I feel like I haven't really been using it as much. Is it
I still
Are you
use
still
it.
on it?
Yeah. I'm not on. I mean, I'm really not. I haven't gone back to Twitter, so usually my social media is I hit Twitter for sports, and then I go, because I have a dedicated list that I just go to the URL for that, and then because that's what I miss from Tweetbot is my columns, and the only column I really don't get enough of in Mastodon is sports. So
Mastodon there is a real gaping hole of sports on Mastodon. So I guess that just kind of shows.
I think this is your opportunity to fill that gap. You could be the every day should be Saturday of
It's
Mastodon.
true. It's wide open. It is wide open. I wonder, maybe I can get Gracely. It'd be like, Gracely, Brian, we're doing a new pod. We're going to focus on the Mastodon sports audience. Like there's a crossover for you.
Nah.
It has to, like, for Mastodon to really grow, it needs the sports people. So I know sports.
Well, the journalism's slowly coming, right? The rest of the journalism
slowly coming over.
Yeah,
but we need
at the tail end.
If we get the Bill Simmons and we get some of the other popular sports blogs out, it'd be good.
You just got to get it into was it Hootsuite or whatever to have it blast it to all the things. That's all you need.
I've got there's one sports person that basically cross-posts all his tweets on college football, and it's like, yep, he's the only one. He's the only one out there in the college football wilderness of Mastodon.
I haven't even looked. Yeah,
exactly. That's why there's nothing out there.
But also, like, I think the thing I enjoy about like every day should be Saturday is how like random it is, and so like I don't think Mastodon doesn't have that randomness yet. Not the like just sheer nuttery of Twitter. Like yesterday, I found the Jack Burton tweetbot. It just quotes tweets from Big Trouble in Little China, and I was like, "This is great," but I don't use Twitter anymore. Follow.
No, it's true. There's some kind of mix there between
You just don't
it's
have
much
that.
more Mastodon, much more orderly, which is in general
It's
good in that
yeah.
time. But it does, I don't know. It needs a little
There's
more
no.
epic
It needs
vibe.
more drill. It needs more drill. That's what it needs. It
But we don't
needs
want it to
more
go too
drill,
far.
more
Then it
crazy
gets more like
butts.
Twitter, and it's just like this is a cesspool. Like when did
Well,
this happen? You know,
I
so there's
know.
some fine line we want that we can't really convey well, right? We just gotta know it when we see it. So,
Yes.
okay. All
Yeah.
right.
I
All
don't
right.
know how what the right balance is, but
Well, we're all
Mastodon
out
is just
there.
too
Well, you
earnest.
know what? We're out there on Mastodon trying to figure it out, and I don't know. Maybe we'll be out there one day on TikTok if we can like figure out how to edit the videos. We may have to get Kote to do some extra work. That could be hard though. That may be. I don't know. He's got the video skills. I always see his. Maybe next time we'll see. Actually, next time I talk to him, I'll ask him about like his TikTok experience. He usually says it's not worth it. That's usually the most of his. He's like, yeah, it's not worth it, but I do it. So, all right, Matt, you ready to get going?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let me write down the time.
Let me see what we got here.
What time? All right, 6 minutes, 6:30 ish. Ready? Next time.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
looking.
adding another link. Sorry.
This is the best part. We need to have your screen up the whole time. What's Matt doing? What's Matt doing during the podcast? That would actually be funny. Like, what is everyone looking at during the podcast? Just arbitrarily people sharing their screens.
All right. I'm done. I will. You got my undivided attention. Links are pasted. Good.
Preparation is complete. Let's go.
Kind of open some Twitch up in here. Twitch.
Got the Twitch up in here.
YouTube, SDT. All right. I'm ready.
All right, for those watching when he looks at me, I'm gonna start. That everyone can follow him right now. I can.
All right, I was just making sure I had YouTube open and paused.
Like I got nowhere else to go. I got like no Kote looking at
I'm
me.
sorry.
I need like a chat GPT. I'm gonna come to you and you're gonna be like, I have no idea what you said.
I have no idea. Okay, here I am.
All right,
undivided attention.
Yeah, undivided attention. There you go. Could be the show title right there. JD goes playing. I like that one. So. Although I started to read his name out loud. And I was like, oh, what is this? I was scared it was going to be something bad, but JD is fine. So, all right. Well, several years ago, my wife went out and did a sleep study, Matt, and she has been a chronic, I don't know, bad sleeper since I've known her, like, for a long period of time. And I would tell her, and I have told her, and she doesn't listen to the podcast, but I believe her approach to sleep, she does everything wrong. Like, gets in bed and watches TV. She gets on the phone.
No.
She sometimes she'll get the dog in the bed. She'll wake up at night and then just like get on the phone, start doing stuff, can't sleep. Right. So I mean, I don't know what else
they tell you not to do.
Yeah, probably doesn't eat the right stuff before bed. I don't know if that's really true or not. So, but so the whole point is that she went and did a sleep study, and I was like, well, I'll be interested to hear how that goes. Maybe they'll figure it out. And so she said she went to the thing and she got like essentially all hooked up, wired up.
Yeah.
And then, like she was sent in a room to sleep and she got home extremely early from the sleep study, which I thought was a bad sign. I was like, I don't know what time she went. She was there at like maybe like 8 or 9, 10 o'clock. I don't know what it was. She got wired up and then she got home. She was like home by like 5 or 5:30. She's like, yeah, everything was good. They took it off. And then she explained to me that it was very difficult to sleep during the sleep study because she had all these things on her and there was like some sounds and things like this. So out of the sleep study came nothing. All the sleep study sounded like to me was a night of no sleep. And they really just determined that she didn't have any obvious medical problem, like something that was preventing her from sleeping. They just basically sent her home. And since then, nothing has come from it. Now, that is a very long lead up to you are joining us the morning after your sleep study. So I wanted you to give us the Matt Ray sleep study experience. How was it?
It was It was fine. You're gonna love this. You're going to love this.
Okay.
NPS survey at the end.
Oh my god, really? It was on the whole experience?
Yes.
Oh my,
And,
so fantastic.
I mean, I just about lost. I'm sitting there.
Oh,
It's all quiet. I'm filling out like, oh, how did you sleep? How does this compare to normal? Blah blah blah. And then like at the end, they're like, would you like to would you like to join our newsletter?
oh my gosh.
And
This
I
is
was
like,
just like,
so
are you
hold on,
are
set
you
the scene for people. Like you checked in, you slept
okay?
the entire night, and then this is at the very end, like you're on your way
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Check in 7:30, 8 o'clock, you know get into pajamas, and then they wire you up. They put like electrodes all over you, and like goo in your hair and stuff. And then they say like, hey, when you're do whatever you normally do before you go to bed, which for me, it's not looking at my phone in my bed.
Yeah.
It's not, having like, it was funny. The input questionnaire was like, yes, you are allowed to bring alcohol. It's like, who
Really?
like slams a beer before they go to bed or something? I was like, um,
No, let
so
me jump in. Like when you check that, they cancel the sleep study and they call you. They're like, it turns out we figured it out. We figured out while you're not sleeping.
no. I mean, it was just funny that they're like, yes, you're allowed to do that. And I'm like,
Okay.
why?
Right. They're like,
But
come do
yeah,
your own thing, right? I got
so
you.
I just come, get in pajamas. They wire me up. I look at my laptop for a while, and do some work, read some stuff, and then I'm like, hey, I got my e-reader. I'm reading for a bit, and I'm ready to go. Let them know I'm ready to go to bed, and then they you know plug you in next to your bed and like turn off the lights, and then they're like, we have there's cameras in the room. They're watching you. They're measuring your breathing. Your all that's fun stuff.
And as a
And,
person monitoring you during the whole time, during your
it's being
sleep.
recorded. It's being
Okay, so it's
recorded.
just video. Okay, so you're like in a hotel room
Um,
being recorded. It sounds like.
yeah, well, it's like a hotel, hospital room, because
Okay.
it's got all the like wires and harnesses and
Mhm.
stuff. And then when you wake up, they tell you, hey, we're gonna wake you up at 6 if you're not already awake. I was already awake, which is part of the problem.
Mhm.
And yeah, so they
Were you
come
actually able to
in.
sleep though? It sounds like, did you actually get? I mean, I know you can't sleep well, but like, did you get your typical bad night of sleep
Yeah, yeah.
inside of it?
It
Okay.
it, it was it was it was fine. It wasn't worse. I
Uh
mean,
huh.
it wasn't great, because like normally I like I sleep on my back, then my side, then my stomach, and I just kind of
Right.
flip around all night long. But I couldn't really sleep on my stomach because I felt like I pulled the wires loose. So
Right.
it was a little constricting. And then the nurse was like, "You're a very restless sleeper." I was like, "No shit." But so he pulls all the stuff off, and
Uh-huh.
then take a shower because your hair is full of like glue, and then they bring you breakfast,
Uh-huh.
which uh, was fine. I mean, it was just like very professional, just very, by the
Mhm.
numbers. But then, there's a survey at the end, like you rate your own sleep, the whole experience, you know, and then they're asking questions about like how everyone does, how was the check-in, how was, the parking,
Right.
how
So
was,
the typical stuff,
blah, blah,
right?
blah. And then it was like straight up NPS on a scale of 1 to 10. And I was just like,
Doesn't
I'm
this
not,
seem like an awful use of NPS? Like
oh,
you're at a sleep
absolutely.
study doctor because you cannot sleep. Like, why would you ask anyone
Oh,
like
yeah.
if they had a good experience? Like, I'm here because I'm having a poor experience. Like,
And I
it
was
seems like
like,
this seems like not the most egregious because there are many,
well,
but this seems
I,
like a very bad use of NPS, right?
I did not I did not choose to follow them on Facebook. I did
You
not
don't
sign
need.
up for the newsletter. I I was just like,
Do they
it's
have a
fine.
TikTok? Are they like, hey, watch this TikTok
They
page? Or
probably do.
better yet, are they like, hey, can we put your video out as a TikTok to recommend our
Oh dear. Oh dear.
yeah, I'm messing with some
Well, a
stuff.
little paranormal activity. Yeah, They might have been on Twitter too. I don't know. I was just shocked at the Facebook
So did
and
you
the
have to stay
NPS.
there and eat breakfast? You couldn't just come home? You wouldn't be like,
You
"Okay,
you could skip it
alright."
if you want. They were just like when you check in, they're like, "What would you like for breakfast in the morning?"
Oh, got it.
And I was like,
Mm.
if I'm there, I might as well. And so got the yogurt and muesli and coffee, and it was
Alright, so
fine.
now when do you get the results? Isn't that like a week later? You have to
Like
like
7 to 10 days or
okay,
so.
so now someone's going to put it into a Sleepbot AI, and they're going to, like, track your breathing or something, and you're gonna hear if it worked. Is that the next step?
Y yeah, uh, yeah. I mean, they're they'll send the reports off to my GP, and he'll figure out what next steps are. So uh, my sleep has gotten exceptionally erratic, and so they're trying to get to the bottom of that.
Alright, I like it. Alright, well, listen, we're all going to wish Matt, good luck on his journey with, sleep, and maybe he'll report back what his doctor says, depending on what it is. But for all of those that can't sleep, this is what I would like you to do. While you're in bed on your phone, I would like you to go ahead and, download Software Defined Talk one more time and, just turn it on. Turn it on for you and your spouse or your loved one, and, maybe get a new listener out there because there's nothing at my house that people like more when I just put on an arbitrary podcast to help go to sleep. So go ahead. Don't worry. I'm sure no one will complain. Everyone will really like it. So just download Software Defined Talk. And if your spouse is having trouble sleeping, don't worry if we're not in tech. We especially when Kote's on, Kote has a really nice voice. In fact, what we're going to do is I'm going to have Kote just like read something. Maybe we can get him to read one of his things or practice one of his presentations. And we are going to designate that as the official Software Defined Talk go to sleep episode. And so we'll get that and you just put it on and just again remember to download. Remember to download. That really helps us in the rankings. So good luck. Good luck to Matt, and look forward to Kote speaking in a monologue at some time soon. Now, Matt, some news from we covered last week, but there's some other stuff that happened. So I thought maybe we would bring it up and revisit it. So let's start with our good friends over at Docker. So when we left them, they had basically taken the free plan away, and people were upset. Now, this week, the quote from the CEO was the following.
Brandon, I gotta stop. Sorry. My boss just sent me like 5 messages, and I thought we were gonna have like a commercial
Okay.
break.
No.
I was like, okay, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll pause. Are we
Yeah,
done for this episode, or what do we got
I
to
don't
do?
know. No, we're definitely not done with the episode. Let me
Okay.
just see.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I saw it, but I was moving between things there.
Yeah, crap. He moved
Oh,
it.
this is live. Everyone can see behind the scenes.
Yeah. Um,
All right, now I got to figure out how to like.
yeah. I think there's a break in there, and we just.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I can do it. I'm just looking at the messages. Oh, that's nice, Matt. 64 in your area. It's good. Add to blacklist. All right, just learned for everyone watching, the Apple Developer Conference, June 5th to 8th. 5th to the 9th. So everyone, I can do a live. It looks like the reality headset. I'm gonna say that's what the image looks like. So everyone can start picking apart. If this was an Apple podcast, we'd spend the next hour looking at just the image of the Worldwide Developer Conference, and we'd be determining what it is.
Wait. They actually posted something.
Oh, just that they sent. They actually
Oh,
scheduled the event, but then everyone like whatever image they put by it, like people like spend a lot of time like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean they're doing this? But it does kind of look like
they're
a
going to
reality.
be releasing curved monitors.
It could be that. So,
All
right,
right.
where you at? Do you
Yeah, rescheduled for 45 minutes. So
Okay, all right, okay. So let's see. What was I saying? Okay, so I go do the sleep thing, and we wish you best time sleep. Okay, all right. I think I'm ready.
yep.
Oh, let me make a night of this time. What time was this? Was 8:19 minutes? Yeah, well, we had some news that we discussed last week, but I
Yeah.
figured we've had some development since then. So we had our good friends over at Docker. When we first discussed them last week, they had essentially canceled the free plan. People were upset, but it seemed like they were going to stay with it. So now, after that, they basically rescinded that. And here's the quote I'll read from the blog post that the CEO posted. So it says, "Quote: After listening to feedback and consulting our community, it's clear we made the wrong decision in sunsetting our free team plan. Last week, we felt our communications were terrible, but our policy was sound. It's now clear that both the communication, it's now clear that both the communication and the policy were wrong. So we're reversing course and no longer sunsetting the free team plan." So my question, Matt, because I think we had this exact discussion. It's like, was it a communication problem and things like that? So the part that I think is really interesting here is they basically originally thought it was just a communication problem, which I think you kind of pointed out, right?
Yep.
They basically said that ultimately it was the strategy here. So what do you think? What changed? What changed the CEO's mind? Why did the strategy here and the policy? Why did they basically say it's wrong? Because nothing really happened other than the feedback in the last week. It wasn't like some new business dynamic. It was like, oh, suddenly we figured out how to make money. It was just something along those lines. So what do you think? What do you think actually changed?
Well, they botched the rollback, you know this is I mean it's them. um they botched the rollback, and they think that, well, we can reset it to the way it was before, and it's like, you can't, right? um some bridges have been burned, some of them are still on fire, and you're like, no, 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 the bridges are fine, leave them there. But I think a lot of people already moved. I think one of the funny things is that one of the louder complainers, Alex Ellis, had already moved like 2 years ago. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, the reason I want to bring up is like you and I, we've never worked at anything this magnitude. At least I haven't. But I know when you and I worked together at an open source company, like we know how these things went. Like there's a
Oh
meeting,
yeah, yeah,
right? There's
I
an
have plenty
executive
of
meeting, and it's
kerfuffles.
like
Yeah,
someone's putting out a plan like, hey, this is what we should do, right? And then there's a lot of debate about it. And so in this case, it almost doesn't even matter. But I think it goes because I think the script is the following: like, we're going to change something in the open source project or to the open source community, right?
yeah,
And it's going to be different, and it's going to probably take something away, something that is perceived as valuable to the community, right? So you're sitting in the room, someone is saying it's really important we do that because usually, often it's sales saying it's really important because it's inhibiting our opportunity to win new customers. That is typically what happens. Like there's a sales or financial person kind of pushing for it. Then there's the open source community leader or that group of the company, and they're like, hey, this is going to cause a lot of problems. And I don't think these people are going to pay anything, right? You're
right.
not actually losing any market share. It's probably going to cost you more in goodwill to make this change than money you think you can actually have. And then in the middle, you kind of have the CEO, the CFO, and maybe a marketing and a product person, right? And they're kind of like all over the like. I don't know. That group is, if you
Yeah,
will, the swing state, with the CEO really holding the final vote, right? It's like, and it just depends. Like, if it's a small product change or it doesn't matter, the product people would probably be like, it's too much work to even like, let's not even mess with this because it's not going to do anything good for the product. The marketing
no,
people will probably be like,
no,
ooh, I don't like this because I don't have
no.
to
See,
market a
that
bad
I
decision.
think you're
Huh?
overthinking this. I really think you're overthinking this. I think someone made a decision and said, "This is what we're going to do." It wasn't like open for
Who do you think
debate.
that was? That's my biggest question because
Oh,
in the room, I think there was
I don't
debating.
know their org chart. It was probably, um, you know, somebody looked at the hosting numbers and
Mhm.
said, "This isn't what we do anymore." And maybe it could have been like an engineering manager is like, "Hey, have you noticed this? This $1 million a month or whatever. What do we get from that?" And
Mhm.
then somebody probably at fairly high executive levels like, "Yeah, you know what? We got to cut this," and said, "Hey, just this is what we're going to do." He didn't like open it up for feedback, because feedback would have probably said, "Hey, this is going to have some blowback,"
Right.
and the feedback would have said, given there's going to be blowback, what do we do about it? And how do we tamp that down? How do we And the easy solution would have been like, you go very transparent. You say, look, Docker today, this is not our core business.
Mhm.
Um, we're going to shut down this thing in a year, right? Here are three viable alternatives,
Right.
and have fun. Thank you for your time with Docker, but this isn't our business. Unless there, I don't really think. I mean, I assume that there's not a big business in just the straight Docker hosting, the Docker Hub business. If
Right.
they're not shutting that down, maybe they thought this was some sort of loss leader that doesn't work well. But you when you sunset something, give people time, and and explain your rationale.
Right. And then give
It
them
was just
clear
kind of
options too.
like
Like
they
this
were
is
just
what you
like,
should do.
hey, it's going
Well, the
fast,
original
and
blog
plan's gone.
post, I don't know if this colors your comments at all, but like the original blog post was posted under the name of the CMO, right? And
Right.
then the retraction was posted under the name of the CEO. So it clearly, the CMO. So I just bring that up because, like, okay, well, they clearly decided they were going to do it, and then, of course, like someone else wrote all this stuff. I'm not under
Yeah.
the interpretation or the belief that all these guys are writing this, but someone wrote this and then approved it, right? And they're like, okay, the CMO, and I think this is the place. Where it's
Well,
like,
I
I feel
mean,
like the CMO was probably the sacrificial lamb. Like, I don't bet you.
yeah.
In this case, I don't think the CMO would come up with this idea. Like, I don't think they're like, this is like the number one thing I should be creating awareness about the company is this. And then two, they probably were just like, well, it's got to go under an executive byline. We're putting you under, and they probably read it and were like, okay, it's fine. So I just think it's funny that like they're probably just getting all the blowback, but I bet you they had almost nothing to do with the decision itself.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And I think it is a good sign that the CEO put it out, the
Yeah.
response, right? It's like taking responsibility. It's like, look, I'm here to clean this up.
Well, I think it is
And
for sure, right? And I think that's if you're gonna make a mistake, or at least you determine, and this is what this is reading from them, right? It's clear now that they were both wrong. So it's like if you're gonna make a mistake, the best thing to do is just own it and
yep.
try to rectify it. So credit to the CEO there. But I do think, I mean, I have a bigger question. I think if I was at the board of directors, with the CEO, I think I would ask the CEO some hard questions like, what went into this decision, right? And why is the policy wrong? Because the other side of it was because, like, you kind of opened up, kind of saying what I was thinking too. It was like the damage is already done. Like, if they
Yeah.
wanted out of this, they should have just like pushed through. It's like you're not getting any, you're not going to win back the goodwill, right?
Right.
You're just sort of like you've already taken the pain. If you believe this is really important for you to get out of the business, great. Now, if something, and the other thing about the policy, right, I guess I would like to know is like if they suddenly determine, actually, hey, this free hosting is great for our marketing because it,
But that
people
should have
know
been
about it.
like
They
sorted
should have
out
known that before,
before.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so that's why I think this does kind of open up the CEO, I think, for some real like, you know, evaluation. Like, if you own these decisions, right? These decisions are yours, and you're the one that, and so credit to them for handling, I guess, if you will, the blowback. I think might as well roll it back. But I don't know, really, interesting decision making, I guess the best way to say, or like some really poor decision making, I guess would be the way to say it. And
Yeah.
I know, because I do think just my uneducated guess here is that like whatever savings they would have gotten or potential sales from this
Murdered.
is
Yeah.
so overwhelmed by the bad publicity that it's, in the end, this is
Well,
net loser for them.
I mean, maybe.
Mhm.
A lot of these, like,
Yeah, maybe it doesn't
tempests,
matter, right?
a lot of these tempests do actually blow over and don't leave a lot of permanent damage. And so, you know, probably it'll be okay. But I don't think they're not gonna get that goodwill back. But I don't, maybe it wasn't that as damaging as we think. We don't know the numbers. Obviously they thought that they needed to roll this back for some reason.
Mhm.
So maybe the numbers are compelling to them, or they thought it was going to get worse. But it's not. It doesn't show a lot of foresight.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do think this just reiterates like something I think everyone already knows, especially in open source. Like in the end, like never take away anything. Like really, I mean, like if you're gonna take
Or
away,
do it slowly.
you got to do it slowly, and you gotta like. It would be one thing if they were like, we're spending whatever, some arbitrarily huge number, like, and like we're spending $30 million a quarter on this, and it's huge, and we can't keep doing this. We're running out of money. It's like people are going to get that and just be like, yeah, like, and you're also committed to like, it doesn't matter if you don't like it, we just can't afford it. So if you have that level of decision, of course, take it away. But all this other stuff, like the amount of time and effort that it consumes companies with and the amount of blowback. I mean, Matt, you have numerous examples of this. I know I've been in a room where like we're debating these small things that people want to take away that have no effect on the business, but like creates so much bad goodwill. So that's my if you're running an open source company, just like don't take anything away. And that's why you got to be so careful when you put things out, right? You got to really like when you're putting it out, you're kind of putting it out forever. So we'll see.
It's a commitment. I mean, you can't just, say, oh, we're doing this and then we're not doing it. It's like if you so much of open source is tied to like goodwill.
Yeah.
And commercial software, like nobody cares. Your NPS is always a 6, right? But with like open source, you're subject to the whims of complainy people,
Yeah.
and nothing is worse than having something free taken away from you. And so you just have to like tread carefully always.
And I think that's like you kind of hit the perfect word there. It's like it's almost like you should, if you're running an open source company, it's like you almost need to have like the word goodwill and like, maybe not NPS because we've been beaten on that one, but like some type of measurement or just something, some kind of feeling of it. Like, hey, what's our goodwill like now? When are we dipping into the goodwill because we're making some changes that are upsetting people? And what are we doing to build goodwill? Right. And that's at the end of the day, right? If you're going to go open source, that's what you're depending on. So no goodwill, no good press, if they will, as they say. So, all right. The other thing I thought we'd touch on a little bit of dissent here, just like, I don't know, we talk a lot about work from home and things like that. So Amazon has come out and they have the head of HR has officially rejected the employees' return to office petition, which I think surprises no one. Like, were you surprised to hear this? When they signed a petition, were you ever like, oh, that's going to change it? I never for a moment thought to myself, this would have any effect.
I've been drinking a lot of world's greatest company or world's greatest employer Kool-Aid. No, I mean, no. It's they made their decision, and I've already seen one resume related to this, which is awesome. But it's just the reality that HR and big companies are going to have to deal with is like some people don't want to work that way and some people do, and Amazon will sort it out. And you know what, I bet there will be exceptions to the rule. There will be some,
there'll be some self-selection, right? People
will absolutely
exceptions and some people leave. And I thought the part that caught my eye here was a little bit interesting. It said, I guess the official response came from the head of HR, and she said, quote here, she said, the company is confident that the office work will increase the company's ability to deliver for customers, right? And my thought about this was like, maybe sometimes like we just as like, I don't know, employees or people at work, it's like, sometimes I think we try to hold like these executive teams to a standard that isn't really possible. And also to the executive teams often like always want to like, say the decision was kind of, like it says here, make our customers, whatever, make our customers happy. And it's like, the truth is like in my mind is like this is a preference thing. Like you can have a group of executives that say we prefer to everyone work in the office, and like they have the ultimate decision making, and I think it's fine. Like there's like every time you join a company has a whole set of preferences of the way that they do things, and you kind of have to decide if those are things that you can live with or not live with. And that's kind of like what it is working in a company. But like, I think sometimes it's hard when the company sort of like portrays every decision as like fact-based data analysis backing up. Like there is no other.
Well, it's kind of patronizing. They're like, this is best for the customer.
Yeah. And it's like, that's really? Sort of like, you're not really, it's like you're kind of not engaging. I think you're right. You're not engaging on an intellectual level. Like, because I do mention a few things in there about like, hey, they at least acknowledge that it will be difficult for some people. Obviously some people more than others, but I just think if I was sort of communicating this, I don't know, it feels like executives won't ever do this. It's like, just to acknowledge, like, we have a preference. The executive team prefers everyone to be in the office. This is how we want to manage the company. And we want to find people that want to work in the office, right? I mean, you could go even further and say, rather than like kind of like what you're alluding to is like, oh, people like quietly looking for jobs, you could go further and be like, in fact, we're going to offer some type of packages, right? Like, hey, people, we need to reduce headcount and it may not work for everyone. Here's a separation agreement if you're ready to go. Like, that's crazy talk. I know that would never happen, but like,
Well, but
that,
essentially that's what they're doing, right?
right, they're
Like
doing it in a kind of a quiet way,
Amazon
right?
had layoffs,
Yeah.
and then they pair it with, hey, I mean, they've it seems like everyone's had a bunch of layoffs, rounds and rounds of them, and this just kind of gets paired with that, and it's like, hey, if you survived all these rounds and you were like, I'll just hang tight here at home, and now you're being told, well, the writing was already kind of on the wall that you should always keep the coals coals hot somewhere else, just in case. But I don't know.
Well,
Wrong
and I
creative
think it kind of comes
employer.
back to what you're saying here, a little bit. Kind of ties back to our other discussion earlier around it's about goodwill, right? It's like, so if you're Amazon, you are kind of reaching into the basket of goodwill here, because if you go read the core principles, right, and an idea of that, Amazon employees, that the people they want to recruit are like, highly motivated, challenge the status quo, all of AWS. That's really what I'm thinking about when I'm talking about Amazon, right? Is like the idea of like moving everything, from data centers to the cloud and things like that. Like, you are going to have a lot of people that think that way and that want to kind of, challenge the way things have been done before. So, working in an office is very traditional. So you're sort of like, you're kind of asking this group of people that probably want to challenge the status quo in general, not to challenge the status quo here. So you really are, as an executive team, depending on a lot of goodwill to get you through, and obviously financial results, right? Like, hey, if the company's doing well and the stock's going up, like there's some famous quote from like, I think, a football coach, like, winning cures all like locker room
Yeah,
problems, and that may happen here, but I do think it's interesting to watch. It's like, how much goodwill has AWS or Amazon sort of done here. And I do think the message matters. Like, if you're going to come out here and say this stuff, right? Like, oh, we know it's going to make our customers better, then I don't know, you are, if you will, making it harder for yourself down the road, right? If you really, I don't know, it's almost like a parent, right? It's like, hey, if I'm going to say this and people don't feel like it's genuine now, they may question your comments later when you really are trying to be genuine.
yeah, for sure. I mean, so much of yeah, it definitely has kind of a gaslighting kind of thing where it's like, oh yeah, we did all this, for the best, and like, you're just gonna say that about everything you do anyway. So why say
So,
it?
yeah, why is it any different, right?
Because
Yeah.
as an Amazon customer, I don't really care where your employees work.
Yeah, nobody cares, right? Nobody cares. All right, and then the final one is there was a long article here from the New York Times about Apple, and we talked about last week, about their putting out the goggles, and this kind of reminded me a little bit of Chef, in the sense of, like, it sounds like there's a bunch of employees, right, who are like upset. They don't think it's ready. We talked about that. We kind of all gave our opinion last week around that. But the reason I thought of Chef here was like, it's kind of back to like the people you're hiring. Are you hiring mercenaries? Or are you hiring, like evangelists, right? And I thought back to the story No SSHJJ tells about his interaction with Chef, right? That he was working as an IT person in some company. I can't remember what it was. And he was, trying to, like, having a lot of issues around configuration management. And he ran into Chef, as I remember the story, and was having some issues. And I think Adam Jacob, the founder of Chef, like, was in the, I think in that case, like an IRC group or something, right? And actually ended up helping him, right? Anyway, so like the story goes, and I heard a bunch, like, if you ever went to Chef Conf, like, you heard a bunch of these stories. It was like, man, this used to take like 17 years. And then I learned Chef and people
17
helped me,
years.
and like it was done in 2 minutes. Like, obviously that's an exaggeration, but it was something like that. But it created I always think of Chef. It created a ton of evangelists, like total
And
converts,
goodwill.
right?
Yeah.
People that you could tell, like, people's, I don't, it's like too much to say lives have changed, but like work lives were significantly shifted, right? From kind of a very chaotic world to like something they felt they could really do. And you could tell, like, I'm going to go so far as like people truly love the product, right? And because of that, like, when and that's good and bad, right? And it's like, but I think, and some of those people went on, and that's where I was thinking of JJ, like, Chef hired him. I think you hired him, Matt, right?
Yeah.
And like, and that's what you wanted. And so if you're hiring people that love the product, right, you are often going to, get a lot of blowback when you're taking that product in a direction that people don't like, right? And that is sort of a function of the group that you've built, right? And that you don't have to do it that way. You can obviously hire people that are sort of like, I always use that mercenary, sort of like, I'm just here. I'm a professional. Tell me the future benefits of your product. I'll market it. I'll develop it. But I'm not going to get too passionate about like, if you decide to do this or you decide to do that, and that comes with its own set of problems as well. So I just think with Apple, and I thought it's interesting, kind of back to this idea of goodwill. It's like Apple more than anyone seems to really cultivate, people that like, I don't know, like I love Apple, I love the products, but like I get it. Like working there is probably a whole nother level of commitment, right? And it's like, yeah, if you go to this group of people that truly love the products to the point that they're like, industrial designers thinking they're working on art, and you tell them I'm shipping this product that they don't like, you're going to get a lot of blowback. So I don't know, what did I overstate the chef experience? Is that just
No, I mean,
so much,
so much of the chef experience was goodwill, right? I mean, there were, we saw results of bake offs where people were like, these products are a push, but the community was so much better, or the help we got was so much better, or people would be like, hey, I'm willing to accept the perceived increase in complexity of chef versus other tools because you know when I have a question, I get answers. When people are always, going that much further and great NPS scores. But, but, they're, I mean, and that was definitely an advantage, a strength of the company. And, and of course it got frittered away quite quickly, by, mercenaries. But as far as Apple's concerned, I think what's interesting is you actually don't hear from a lot of people who work at Apple. They're very tight-lipped about
yeah,
what's happening. And so for us to be, I don't know, hearing cracks in the facade, there must be some serious discontent about the state of this product, or perceived state of it. I don't know. I mean, because when they do release something, if they release something, whenever they release something, it's going to make waves. And, whether it's the best selling in the feature space, um, uh, you know, everyone will copy what they do. And so, everyone just expects whatever Apple does is going to change, the perception of, AR, VR, whatever, because everyone expects them to do right. And if something gets shipped half baked, it's it's so much goodwill is just lost because they're like, Apple, we were counting on you
I agree. And I
to
think
fix this because right now it sucks.
yeah, and I think you're exactly right because Tim Cook, and so this is kind of back to I think I don't obviously money wise Tim Cook could go on to be, I don't know, one of the greatest CEOs of all time, but I think this is like he ultimately is, if you will, putting a lot of his goodwill on the line, right? Like if this thing comes out and it's bad, he's going to have an endless a series of people telling him, "I told you so," right? And now if it comes out and it's great, it'll be his crowning achievement. And I don't know. I think he's already super rich, so he can be super rich with
Yeah.
one more great achievement. But it is one of those things. So, but also too, it's like I think if you're Tim Cook and you're honest with yourself, it's like, well, I mean, this is the group I hired, right? And this kind of goes with Amazon too. It's like I've hired evangelists, I've hired people that are deeply committed to it. That's what I want. And in both of these cases, like at times I'm going to have to deal with a lot of different blowback. So it'll be fun on both these things to watch, right? As we kind of go, it's like, obviously I think we'll kind of quietly see if Amazon rolls back, there's some like quietly change the policy. That'll be real interesting to know. And the case of Apple, it's just a high profile thing we're going to watch. Like we're all going to see it. And like, we're all going to go to the Apple store at some point. We're going to put the goggles on and we're either going to be like, this is crap, or we're gonna be like, whoa, we had no idea it could be this good. Like we clearly had lack of imagination. It's better than I ever thought it would be. Here's $3,000. I'm
Well,
taking
yeah.
it.
Here's your safest bet. I won't buy it in the first year.
True. Well, that's a good question. When is the first? I guess you're a bad person to ask. So
Yeah, I'm the worst person to ask, right?
iPhone. That's probably like iPhone 7 or something for you. You waited a long
No,
time.
no. I think my first one was a 3G.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Same
but
thing here. I waited the full year to get the iPhone 3G. And now I look back like, why did I waste time? I should have just immediately got it. But people forget, like at the time it was so expensive. It seemed so expensive. It was like $300 for a phone. And it's like no, like I don't pay for anything for a phone. They give it to me for free, or they give it
Yeah, well,
to
and
like
yeah.
it's just crazy now. Look back on it, like, oh, now here I am, like spending like I don't know what the last one I bought was like, I don't know, over $1,000, and I didn't
Whoa.
even blink. I was just like, yeah, I need that. So, all right, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens with all the dissent, and it's some fun stuff for us to watch as we go forward. Now, as we always say here on Software Defined Talk, we're always looking for questions. So we got a good one from Andrew this week in the Slack. He asked, in relationship to the story, so Disney is reportedly eliminating its metaverse division in its first round of layoffs. So
We
Andrew
hardly knew you.
asks, where do we think the metaverse sits in the tech adoption lifecycle, and when do we think it hits an inflection point to majority adoption? All right, Matt, what do you think? What's your take?
Um, well, I can you have more than one trough of disillusionment?
Well, I don't know if you can have it like more. You can have them. I would say you can revisit it over a period of years. I don't think you can be in it like. I don't think there's like an extra deep trough of disillusionment, but maybe that's
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's similar to like AI, where AI was the hype for 60 years. And, to the point where, it was always right around the corner, and you had, AI winters. You had, hype cycles that just, blew out and nothing happened. But like, honestly, I feel pretty, I think we've kind of hit the turning point. I'm not like breaking news here. I think that's kind of hit the turning point, but I feel like AR, VR, it's like people have seen cool things and neat demos, and then the reality always just kind of sucks. And so, um, I think, we are far from majority adoption. Um, I'm, I'm, I would hesitate to guess that, I say we're probably 10 years from majority adoption.
Yeah, I think we should almost have like a different category here. Like, I think we should just call it like tech too soon, right? It's just like it's not like some things are just bad ideas. Like you finally get there and you're like, this
3D
is
TV.
yeah, you're just like it's 3D TV. No one believes 3D TV is coming back. But I think we could also have because we have lots of examples now where it's like, oh, this was a good idea, but the
Yeah, yeah,
technology and the conditions aren't ready. And it's like, and obviously, we just talked about Apple, so they're going to try, but Google's given up. I think we've all seen the Meta version of this, and it does kind of have that kind of feeling of like the giant tablet table that was first shown, where it was like, oh, we're all gonna have these giant tablets that
yeah.
are, I guess, or no, interactive like desk, right? Like they're in
Right.
these movies, and it's like, no, it was just way too soon. Like what we're gonna have is a tiny phone that we carry around, and
Well,
you had
or and tablet laptops that have touchscreens on them now, and so it's like we ended up picking up a lot of those ideas and taking them forward. It's just it wasn't that vision, and
yeah.
and at the time it was a good demo, but not a good product, and or not a good experience, and so I think I think AR VR will come. I mean, I think it's inevitable, and I feel like there's probably a strong AI tie there, where you
Yeah.
have some sort of Gemini Cricket on your shoulder, giving you like feedback about what you're seeing, and popping things up for you, and it's you know that I think that's compelling. I think that's interesting. I just you know I I think people's willingness to like buy into that, it's going to have to be, um, it's going to have to be a lot better than it is.
Great. So, all right. So, Andrew, so I think the net is no time soon. And I think, and I really think in this case, it's not so much like people getting exposed to it and learning about it. I think it's just fundamentally the technology is too soon. And now we should timestamp this because Apple's going to release their big thing in June. And so, if it goes on to be worth billions of dollars, I'm going to go back and edit this out. I'm going to delete all of this. So, all right. Well, listen, final thing here, Matt, I thought we talk about is like we've talked about maybe some more pessimistic things. But like, you found this link about cheating is all you need. And it was all about kind of like, artificial intelligence, kind of written from the perspective of an engineer. And I think the kind of the takeaway, and I think the first part of it, recommend everyone read the article, was sort of like so much of like people with technical engineering mindsets are very skeptical of things. And there's lots of reasons, and we all get reinforced about why that is. But like, I thought he had a pretty optimistic take. Like,
Yeah,
AI actually, and really when I'm saying that, I'm talking about, ChatGPT and LMs and stuff like that, is maybe even bigger than we think about. Like, and he even cites like, oh, he once predicted Amazon would be worth $150 million, and today it's like, I don't know, over a trillion.
trillions. Yeah.
So it gives it. So I don't know, what were your thoughts? Like, what jumped out at you in this article?
This is a good article from Steve Yagi. So pretty much anything he writes is worth reading, which is
Mhm.
good because he's not
Doesn't
especially
write a lot,
prolific.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't write a lot, but when he does, take the time. And his point was like the state of AI is really good. Um, and he gives an example of you know in natural language, requesting an Emacs plugin and like ChatGPT doing it. It's like I want you to do a pop-up window that publishes some text and highlight everything with an eye in it and red. And I was like, wow, that was very very compelling. And what he's kind of pushing back on is, you know, serious developers saying that, AI generated code isn't good code. And his point is, well, serious developers, we've always had bad code. And, pretty much everything we do in software engineering is to protect ourselves from bad code, right? Whether it's code scanning to packaging to different abstractions and frameworks, it's like we're trying to protect ourselves from poorly written code. And so his point is like, well, if this can handle a lot of boilerplate, we can continue to move on to letting getting the 80% of the scud work out of the way, and we can focus on the more compelling stuff and continue to reinforce all those other tools. Like nothing's really going away. And then he pivots a bit to talk about how large language models work and how like almost everybody doing this is kind of doing it the same way. The technique behind Chat GPT is it's not particularly like, I mean, it's quite compelling and stuff, but like everyone doing AI right now is doing it the same way. And his takeaway from that is like the way that you become better at this than your competition is by having bigger data sets, which definitely is going to skew towards the big cloud providers, people with like large sets of data already. But it's a good article where he kind of talks about like, hey, it's great, it's great, it's going to keep getting greater, here's where it's going to plateau, and the winners in the AI space are going to be the ones with the most data. And but the cool thing is you can train these things really quickly with relatively small sets of data. So as a programmer, like you can train it up to be really good at Emacs Lisp or Tailwind CSS or whatever your favorite framework is. You're going to get really good tools. So it's a very optimistic article, and he's right. I mean, you're already starting to see a lot of stuff. The caveat, of course, is like, just like always, you need judgment, and everything that comes out of Chat GPT is always fully confident that it's the best thing that could be written. And I've seen a lot of comparisons saying, well, Chat GPT is like mechanized mansplaining.
That's funny.
Which is
I
true,
like that.
right?
Yeah.
But as a seniorish developer, like I remember when I was younger thinking like, oh, the compiler must be wrong, right? And now, like when you make a mistake, you assume
Never the
it's something
compiler.
I did. It's never the
Never the
underlying
compiler.
tools, right? And so, and you learn to like ask a lot more questions and have better probing things. And so, the skepticism should not be at the tools. It should be in reading through and understanding what the results are.
Yeah, I guess that's my big takeaway is I've been using, I guess Bing Chat. I don't know what the right word is, and I'm amazed. Like I just kind of leave it open now as like a little tab there, and I use it all the time to like ask questions. Like especially for things like I used to use Google for. I mean, it's for sure it's happening, and I think the biggest thing I think about, like the thing that we talk about that I think we've been pretty down on for the entire time of this podcast is any type of low code tool. Like it's like drag a box and like connect arrows or use this fancy like WYSIWYG interface to code. And it's like, no, none of that is right. This is the way you do it. You just like, especially if you're just doing kind of like, I'm going to call them like kind of like small, like internal coding things like, hey, like give me, if you will, something like almost you doing a spreadsheet. It's like, give me a table from this data that tells me XYZ, right? And it's like, yeah, this is what
Well,
people want.
I,
They
I
don't
think,
want to like
yeah,
drag boxes around.
but I think low code is probably going to be subsumed by AI.
Well, that's what I mean. Like this is,
Yeah,
like, there
yeah.
is no low code.
I
This
mean,
is
the
the
low
low
code
code.
is going to
Yeah.
be a text interface where you say, "I want this," and here are the inputs, here are the outputs. Do this to it. No, I'm not going to have to learn, some
Yeah.
WYSIWYG.
This is, I mean, you just
Yeah,
want the natural discussion. So
absolutely.
it's like, yeah, so we can almost just cross low code off and be like, yeah, done.
Sorry, low
Chat,
code.
so that's gone from trough of like disillusionment to like, yeah, plateau of productivity. It's like, yep, just go fire up your chat GPT and ask a question. So,
Yeah.
well, we're not going to get to it this week, but I thought there's a good article about how Siri, Alexa, and Google Assistant lost the AI race. And I think it is really interesting because we talked about all this virtual reality and stuff like that and augmented reality. But here we've had these other, bad voice assistants now for like, I don't know, at least 10 plus years. And it was interesting, sometimes it's just the wrong time. So it's like, all these people trying to build glasses. Sometimes I'm just thinking to myself, like, why don't you just make these voice AIs that we've had that are so bad? Like, I mean, they're so awful, especially once you've used any chat GPT. It's like, I think they're universally. I know people say Google is the best, but like Siri, Alexa, Google, they're all awful. So it's like, hey, there's a place to start. Don't build any glasses. Just make it easy for the playlist to actually play on my phone when I ask Siri. It seems more than possible now that we have that out there. So if you want to dive into that, I recommend checking that one out. And of course, if you would like a sticker, what you can do is send your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, and I will be happy to send you stickers anywhere in the world. Also, Matt doesn't even know about this. We're going to have a very special after show. Matt's not going to be on it. Got a special guest for the after show. So they wanted to come on and talk about some stuff that we had maybe gotten wrong, that maybe Matt had gotten wrong. So you have to listen to the after show, which will happen. You're going to hear Matt say like bye or something like that. And then you hear a little sound, and then you'll hear the after show. So stay tuned if you want. Wow. And if you're burnt out, you're like, all these people don't talk about tech enough, then don't listen to that because there's very little tech talk in after show. So you should check that out if you're interested. Conference is coming up. Matt and Cote are going to be at a KubeCon EU. That's April 18th through 21st. I'm sure they'll do something live and in person. Find Matt, make him give you a sticker. There's DevOps Days Birmingham and Alabama, Roll Tide, War Eagle. That's April 20th and 21st. And then finally, DevOps Days Austin is coming up. That's May 4th and 5th. Now, Matt, what is your recommendation this week?
My recommendation this week is a rather long podcast episode. Dan Carlin, the guy behind Hardcore History, has a podcast called Hardcore History Addendum. So first off, if you like hardcore history, if you like history, that's just like the best. But the addendum is usually like stuff that doesn't really fit into, it's interviews with people or whatever. The latest episode is him talking with Rick Rubin, the music producer, and I'm 2 hours in. He doesn't do anything short, but it's a fascinating conversation. I've just they cover a lot of different topics about the creative process, and they talk about AI, they talk about all sorts of other stuff, but just a really good round conversation that if you're not a fan, it's not like a lot of the other stuff, but it's definitely worth a listen.
All right. And also, you want to plug your recent appearance here at Scale?
Yeah. So some sharp-eyed YouTube viewer saw that Scale has published the recording of my Kubernetes cloud cost monitoring with open cost and optimization strategies talk. So that's in the show notes. If you miss me at Scale, there's a recording.
Watch on
And
YouTube. Yeah, and
yeah,
that's like the most SEO optimized headline I think I've read in a long time. You got them all in there. You got everything. So if you
catch
can't
them all.
find that in Google, I don't know. You're not trying. So
I,
watch Matt Ray dazzle you about managing cloud costs. My recommendation this week is Duolingo, right? So I live here in Texas, been here a long time. So of course, in high school, where I didn't live in Texas, I took French, completely useless language. I've never used French for any reason. I don't know why I took it, but everyone
Bonjour, amigo.
speaks Spanish. Like my son speaks Spanish. You know,
See,
it comes in handy. So I finally was like, all right, I want to like at least build my Spanish vocabulary. So I'm on Duolingo. I'm doing the Spanish, and I love it. I was telling my son, I was like, this is like the best homework ever. Like when I was doing this, like we had to read the book, then do like the stupid worksheets and like copy.
yeah.
I mean, it was hell. Like Duolingo is kind of like a game, and I've totally bought off on it. So I'm doing it, and I also think it's like a good replacement for like if you want to go to your phone and like waste a few minutes. I actually just like instead of like going to social media or something else or playing like just a regular games. Like you can get on Duolingo, build your vocabulary, learn a little bit of that. So I really like it. So I'm doing Spanish. My son's way ahead in Spanish, but I've threatened because he's just started Mandarin. So I feel like we're closer in that level. Maybe I could like compete with him in Mandarin. So I don't know about any of the other languages. I assume they're all really, really good. It seems like they've done
my
it.
son has been just cycling through languages for fun. So he's done Japanese and Spanish and French, and apparently it stops somewhere that the free tier ends. So I think he's just going through free tiers.
I like it. That's it's funny you say that because my son also said that like sometimes they get assigned like do Duolingo, but they can do any language that doesn't like constrict them. So sometimes he said sometimes him and his classmates they do other languages. It's like
Yeah.
fine. Like I'm not gonna yell at the kid. I can't believe you're spending time learning another language. That's so bad. So
What are you ever going to do with the Korean?
so
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's good. And also like, I'm not someone that's particularly good at learning languages. And I think the way they do it is real fun. So if you're looking for something fun to try out Duolingo. And with that, we will speak to you next time.
Bye.
All right. That was it. All right. Thanks for everyone watching. Thanks for Brian for being in there. The video. I did not hear your car honk, but I'm sure you drove by 10 minutes ago. So, and JD, we appreciate you for your undivided attention throughout this show. So with that, we will be back sometime soon, probably next week, probably on Wednesday, but anything can change. Y'all take care.